Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Deaconess Elizabeth, and it is Friday, October the 14th, and I'm here again for your daily devotions. Today we are picking up in Matthew, the 12th chapter, starting at the 38th verse. So if you'd like to follow along, you may turn there now. Then some of the Pharisees and teachers of the law said to him, "Teacher, we want to see a miraculous sign from you." He answered, "A wicked and adulterous generation asks for a miraculous sign, but none will be given it except the sign of the prophet Jonah. For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of a huge fish, so the Son of Man will be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. The men of Nineveh will stand up at the judgment with this generation and condemn it, for they repented at the preaching of Jonah, and now one greater than Jonah is here. The queen of the south will rise at the judgment with this generation and condemn it, for she came from the ends of the earth to listen to Solomon's wisdom, and now one greater than Solomon is here. When an evil spirit comes out of a man, it goes through arid places seeking rest and does not find it. Then it says, 'I will return to the house I left.' When it arrives, it finds the house unoccupied, swept clean, and put in order. Then it goes and takes with it 7 other spirits more wicked than itself, and they go in and live there. And the final condition of that man is worse than the first. This is how it will be with this wicked generation." While Jesus was still talking to the crowd, his mother and brothers stood outside wanting to speak to him. Someone told him, "Your mother and brothers are standing outside wanting to speak to you." He replied to them, "Who is my mother and who are my brothers?" Pointing to his disciples, he said, "Here are my mother and my brothers, for whoever does the will of my Father in heaven is my brother and sister and mother." So we have a couple different accounts here. It seems like it's 3 different topics covered in these few verses. The first one here is titled "The Sign of Jonah." And so the Pharisees come to Jesus asking for a miraculous sign. After all of the miracles that Jesus has already performed, bringing people back to health and back to life, they're asking for a miraculous sign. And Jesus says that the only sign they will receive is the sign of the prophet Jonah. And so in the Old Testament, Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. And so Jesus says that the Son of Man will also spend 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth, or in the tomb. So the men of Nineveh repented when Jonah came to them, but the Pharisees, however, would not. So on Judgment Day, the men of Nineveh and the Queen of Sheba, or the Queen of the South, will judge the unbelievers because, as Jesus says, the men of Nineveh listened to the prophet of Jonah, and Jonah was far less than Jesus, and the men of Nineveh repented. The Queen of Sheba sought to hear the wisdom of Solomon, but we know that Jesus is far greater than Solomon. And then we talk about the return of an unclean spirit, and talking about demon possession, and how the demon, once it's left, is searching until it finds an empty, how it compares to an empty house, or the house is empty, where the person is neither for nor against Christ. And so the demon comes back with more demons to occupy the vacancy. And so Jesus is comparing that to the Pharisees, and how that will be like them, since they do not see that this is Jesus in front of them. And then also we have here at the very end a few verses about Jesus' mother and his brothers wanting to talk to him. And Jesus kind of says, "Who is my mother and who is my brothers?" And he looks around at those who are listening to him, and includes all believers in his spiritual family, and says, "Here is my mother and my brother and my sisters." And so we are all members of God's family, and we are all children of God. Through these verses here, as he's saying, all the believers, whoever does the will of my Father in heaven is my brother and sister and mother. So that is our reading for today. Our hymn is going to be hymn 804, "O Worship the King," and this is in your Lutheran service book. And we're going to do the first verse. "O worship the King, all glorious above. O gratefully sing his power and his love. Our shield and defender, the Ancient of Days, pavilioned in splendor and girded with praise." And we'll conclude with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Well, thank you for joining me for today's daily devotions. Just a few announcements coming up. So tomorrow we have a big day here at Holy Shepherd in New Creations Preschool. We have a joint event, our Fall Oktoberfest. So we encourage and we invite all of you to join us for this event and to bring a side dish if you would like to. If you have a silent auction item that you have not yet brought up to the church, please do so late or earlier tomorrow morning before our Oktoberfest. Our Oktoberfest begins at 4 and it'll go to 6 o'clock. We've got lots of fun events. We've got a bounce house. We've got a silent auction for the adults. Lots of food. Lots of games for the kids. And as well as at the very end, we will have a piñata and a teacher pie in the face contest. So the top 2 teachers who has the most money in their jar will get a pie in the face. So if you would like to come out and watch that, that will all be happening here tomorrow. And then I believe those are the announcements that I have for right now. Pastor is starting a new class on Monday at 7 p.m. It's a study of Martin Chemnitz's Enchiridion. So it looks to be a good class. So I'd love to have a large class to have some good discussion in it as well. So those are the announcements that I have. So I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your Friday.